So let's go to a process, and I can get to a process either by going right here on the side nav to one of the 4 key functions where I want to find my process, or I could also go here to the organization chart and choose a job description that that process is on. So we're going to go here to doing the business and back to this customer complaint process. So this is called the process tools page, and this is where all the templates are that you'll use to document your processes. You'll see every one of my processes, every one of my tools is being used here. That's kind of not typical, so I just wanted to point that out. Usually when you document a process, you may have a work plan and a form, and you may have a work plan, a form, and a script. But it's kind of unusual that you would use every single tool when documenting one particular process. Mine is just this way because we're going through examples. So last week we talked about work plans, and just as a reminder, work plans are right here at the top, and a work plan is meant to be the step-by-step set of instructions, tasks, to-do items that need to be followed in order to achieve the results of the process. The work plan's the tool you're going to use the most. Every one of your processes should have a work plan. There are some situations where maybe you have a process that's got just resource information in it or a manual of some kind that isn't going to be put into a work plan for whatever reason, so that would be an exception to that. But the good rule of thumb is to think that every process should have a work plan, because that becomes like the main training tool, the main tool that you would use to articulate the steps. You may have multiple work plans in a process, like you're seeing here. So this is a customer complaint processing work plan, which goes through the steps of how you process a complaint. And then this one is a work plan on just general customer complaint guidelines. So expectations or tasks or things for training purposes. A work plan, a process could have more than one work plan in it if there's actually more than one workflow. So there's more than one thing that happens in the process. So you could have a work plan on processing the customer complaint, and then you could have a whole other work plan on following up after complaints. So you want to think about what happens within this process, and are there multiple workflows that would be best separated into multiple work plans, or is there just one series of things that happens that has a beginning and an end, and therefore one work plan? Next tool down, we talked about this one last week, but I'll just touch on it briefly. This is a checklist. So the checklist tool is used for quality control. It's used when you need evidence that the steps of the process have been completed, they've been followed. So if the process has that kind of needs, so for management purposes, you need some evidence that these steps have actually been done. Sometimes you're dealing with a process it's very complex and there's lots of moving parts to it, and the employee needs to remember what they've done and haven't done. So it might be for the employee's purposes so they can track what's happened, or it could be for management purposes. So the managers know that the steps have been done. Next tool down is called a script. So what a script is for documenting a conversation. So it's for documenting any kind of verbal interaction. So if the process has a conversation in it, it has frequently asked questions, it has a verbal interaction, something needs to be explained verbally, then the script tool is a great template for that. I'll show you an example up here. In this work plan, we get to step number 5 here, and it says if this is not a warranty issue and the employee or simply a job was not done well, try to resolve it using the provide a solution script. So in the work plan, we're referencing the script. In the work plan, we're not documenting the conversation or listing questions and putting in the responses. The best place for that type of documentation is in the script tool itself. So when you're in a work plan and you get to a place where someone needs to make a phone call, they need to answer questions verbally, then go build a script, and then in the work plan, hyperlink it, hyperlink the script from a task. The reason this is it's better to do it this way is oftentimes employees will be trained in a process, and I'll know the tasks, but then when I get to, especially if it's a phone call, if I get to a place where I have to make this phone call, I'll just call up the script. And I don't need it buried inside the tasks of the work plan. I just go right to the script itself, and then I can follow the prompts of the script and kind of know where I am in the conversation. So to build a script, it's the same way as the work plans and the checklist here. I just click the title and then put in the name of the script. Then you can put in the purpose of it. That's what the objective is for. So think about, what is the purpose of this script? So maybe it's to resolve the customer complaints. And then you hit create, and then the script appears. So the minute I build the script title, I probably go right back to the work plan here and hyperlink it. So the hyperlinks, you just click, just to remind everyone, you just highlight the link word, and then you go to this hyperlink tool. And if you were linking to a script, you'd hit the link type drop down, go to a script, find it. So this is a list of all my scripts so far. And then you hit insert, and then this becomes the link, and save it. So the minute you put in the title of the script, then go back and link it to the work plan. Somebody's probably going to be able to prove me wrong, but I would be safe in saying that you would never have a script in a process without a work plan. So a process would never just contain a script. And the reason is you want to give someone the steps of the beginning and the after of when they're using that script. So call even if it's call the customer, use this script, make notes in the CRM. So even if it's 3 tasks long, you still want to give them some reference for the script itself. So the script template looks like this. This functionality above, you're going to see for all the process tools, and we went over this last time. But just here briefly, this allows you to move a process tool from one process to another. That's what this icon's for. This is the export arrow, print, email. This is the archive. So we archive a lot of scripts because the conversations change and get better, hopefully. And sometimes you want to remember maybe a way that you used to address something, so you can archive the script and then recover it later. This is the delete. So in the script template, there's 2 columns to it. The prompt right here, and then the script. So the prompt is the explanation of what's happening. The script are the words that are actually spoken. So you're giving some context for the words over here. You're giving some explanation for when, why, where, what they should be thinking about, or what situation they're in when they say the words over here. So to start to build this, I just click where it says Add Script Item, and I click open the prompt field. And so this would be a greeting. That's sometimes where scripts start. Or it could be a question that's being asked. And then I would save it. And then I'd go to here the script side. And if it was a greeting, I'd say, hi, thanks for calling. Or however you answer the phone. If you're calling someone, you want to say, hi, this is so-and-so. This is why I'm calling. If it was a question, then you'd put the answer right here. So these are the actual words that are spoken. You want to write this out like a conversation, like I would actually say it. And then you'd go to the next script item. So if this was the greeting, then this is what you'd say next. So maybe this is a question you ask them, or if you've asked them a question up here, you could even put things like listen right here. And then over here, you could say, yes, I'm listening. So think about how the conversation goes, and then do the back and forth of the conversation. This is all drag and drop, just like the other tools, so I can pull these items up and down. It's all click to edit, So I click this and open it. All these toolbar items are the same that you're used to in the other tools. So let's talk about the different types of scripts and kind of some strategies around building scripts. So there are usually two different types of scripts that I would see. One, and this is an example, is called a conversational script. So this is where you're having a conversation with another person, where it typically starts with a greeting, and then you're going through the if-thens and the questions of that conversation all the way to the end here where you end the conversation. So if someone's having to explain something verbally to another person, particularly a customer, if they're having to make a phone call and deal with something like this, providing a solution for customer complaints, if you're in a service business and you're delivering some type of service, either in person or over the phone, then scripting of this type can be really useful for training to kind of show someone how the conversation goes. Sales processes, a lot of your sales processes should have scripts in them if you sell in a verbal fashion. And all industries deal with this. A lot of times it starts with being on the phone, and then it could shift to an in-person, then it could end with another phone call. So anytime there's a conversation that happens that has a result you're trying to achieve, then a script like this one, a conversational script, can be useful. So you'll see, like in the prompt here, I've got greeting, and then over here, hi, can you tell me about your problem? This is an example of a prompt of like what you want the person to be thinking about before they say what's over here. Listen and reflect back what the customer is saying. And you can put in little notes like this. This is still something someone would say. So I hear you. I see what you're saying is, yes, I see how that's a problem. So just these little verbal cues to kind of let the customer know that you're listening. Confirm that they understand. So you're going through the conversation. Then in the script, you can do if-then statements like these. So if the customer is complaining because it took too long, then give them a discount on their next purchase. And then over here, may I offer you a discount on your next purchase? So you're giving some context for it here, giving it an if-then. Then you could do another if-then. If they accept the discount, then do this. Then say this, I mean. You can also have hyperlinks to other things in the script. So this is an example of at a point in the conversation where they're providing a solution, the customer's accepted it, and now I need to enter those notes somewhere so that they get their discount. So rather than like repeating the steps of how to do that right here in the script, which wouldn't be appropriate, we've just made a link to this process called entering notes into the CRM. So when I click this link, it takes me here to this process. This is in running the business in the IT sub-function, CRM how-tos, and then they could see the steps for entering notes if they needed to. So the conversational scripts can typically go in if-then kind of situations, all the way to the end of the conversation. The value of doing something like this is you can provide a training to employees that haven't done this before. You can give them knowledge, experience in the script. So I may be a customer service person through trial and error who's learned how to handle complaints fabulously, but it took me, 5 years to gather all that information. And I may do that really well. But that's not to say that you'd hire a brand new person and they would be able to come in and do the same thing. They need some training. And so the power of a script, the power of documentation, is that I can take all that 5 years of experience and I can put it into a documented format, into a script. And then I can take the new employee and have them memorize and train them in this script. And then it's going to be consistent, it's going to be thorough, and every time somebody calls with a complaint, it's going to be handled in exactly the same way because that way works. People aren't going to be making it up as they go along. It's going to all be here. So again, the value of these conversational scripts is that you can take years of experience in some cases, put it into written format, and someone who follows along can answer questions and can guide someone from the beginning to the end. Another powerful thing about scripts is they help keep employees on track when they're in difficult conversations, like in sales processes, for example. There is an agenda that a salesperson would have, and it could be to close the deal, it could be to set the appointment, whatever the purpose is, that would go up here in the objective. So their purpose, let's say, is to set the appointment. So they're going through a conversational script like this one with all kinds of clues and techniques in the prompt area that's guiding the lead to say yes to the appointment. And there are techniques for doing that your salespeople or yourself have learned over the years. And if you can put those techniques into the script, then suddenly you have this way of accelerating the training of your salespeople, which is an amazing thing to do. If they follow along, then they'll get the appointment. Now, there are always variable situations that come up, and this is the biggest yeah, but I hear about scripting a lot. Well, they don't always say it that way, or well, the customer doesn't always have these kinds of problems, or well, the customer could always say anything, and I don't even know what it is they could say, so there's no way I could build a script for it. So I've heard this endlessly over and over again. Some of that is true. We do deal with variable situations, and there are situations where you get thrown a curveball and suddenly the script doesn't even make sense anymore. But I'm here to say that those are variable. Those aren't routine. So those are things that sometimes happen. Those aren't things that always happen. So in documentation in general, you want to look for the routine. You want to look for what's consistent. You want to look for the best case scenario and build it that way. There may be variable situations that come up, but 80% of the time they don't. The reason we think they do is because the variable situation kind of is what you think about, because it's top of mind for you. You don't really remember how routine the rest of it is. So even in the most variable of situations, build what's routine, build what's consistent, because that's what happens 80% of the time or 90% of the time. A technique you can use to deal with the variable situations are in scripting are frequently asked questions scripts. So that's the second kind of script. So if you have a workflow script, and this is providing a solution, this one, and if somebody follows it from beginning to end, they can 90% of the time resolve the customer's issue. But there are always these variable situations where they're asking questions and they're saying things that sometimes happen and sometimes are asked and sometimes they aren't. So how you handle those things is with a frequently asked questions script. So the prompt is the question, and then the script is the answer. So here's an example. When will the manager get back to me? Within 24 hours. Prompt is the question, script is the answer. Then you go to the next question answer. These don't go in any particular order. They're not meant to be because they're variable. They're things that may or may not happen. So here's another one, a situation that's occurring, and what the verbal answer to that is. Like, customer is still unhappy with the solution you are providing. And then this is what you would say. So you wouldn't need to put something like this into the workflow script, because if they're not saying that, then you don't want to respond to it. You don't want to bring it up. Another common frequently asked question, like in sales processes, is like, this is too expensive. Well, what's the answer to that? So you want to think about these variable or these questions that are sometimes asked, and then put them into a frequently asked questions script. So the idea would be that someone could follow this providing a solution script, and 80-90% of the time kind of guide someone from the beginning to the end to where they were happy with the resolution to their complaint, or they set the appointment, or they bought what you were selling. And then for all the variable situations, you have this frequently asked questions. which gives people answers to things that kind of can throw you off. These frequently asked questions scripts can grow over time as well. So you could sit with your sales team or sit with your customer service people and kind of hammer out everything all the different things that they have heard, all the crazy things, all the weird situations, all the ways customers have gotten angry, whatever it is. List them all out in prompts and build the solutions over here. This is a great team exercise, like with a sales team or a customer service team or a team of technicians or a team of service people. What are all the different weird things that have happened over time regarding this topic, customer complaints, and how have you answered those things in the best way? How are you able to resolve them? And you list all those things out. And then you tell that team, over time, we want to develop this. We want this to be our knowledge base for like all the sales techniques that this company has learned over time, or all the customer service techniques that we have dealt with and people and how we've resolved situations. And so every week you're asking your team to add to the script and add to the script and add to the script. You can make a game of it. So what crazy thing did you hear this week? And then the manager could list it out and then write it into the script. If you think about your frequently asked questions and you're scripting this way, you're going to capture all the experience from all those employees who are learning things on your time while you're paying them. If you don't do this, they learn things on your time while you're paying them, and then they walk away sometimes. And all that knowledge and information walks away with them. So this is about building your training and capturing all that money you've spent on people making mistakes and putting it into a process, putting it into documentation where others can learn from it. So for scripting, workflow script, that's one kind, and then also frequently asked questions. You can have a frequently asked question script without having a workflow script, but I would say if you have a workflow script, conversational script, you should always have a frequently asked questions as well, because these two kind of go together. In a way, this one, the frequently asked question, fills in for the deficits of this one, the conversational script.